No one in Bangkok knew his name. Not the gamblers with chalk dust on their fingers. Not the trainers whose palms were calloused from decades of pad work. Not the policemen leaning in the back, pretending they were only there to keep order. To them, he was just another foreign boy swallowed by heat and neon. A thin frame under a plain shirt. Hair too neat for a fighter. Eyes too awake for a tourist. Outside, the city breathed like an animal. Motorbikes hissed through wet streets. Street vendors fanned charcoal until it glowed. Incense drifted out of doorways and mixed with the sour smell of cheap beer. Inside Rajadamnern Stadium, the air didn't move. It sat heavy on bare skin. It pressed on lungs. It made every breath feel like an agreement. Bangkok, 1958. The kind of night where a man can disappear and still be watched. The kind of night where reputations are not announced. They are tested. The ring stood in the middle like a small, bright mistake. For ropes, a stained canvas. Fluorescent lights that turned sweat into glass. The crowd didn't come for novelty. They came for certainty. They came to see what they already believed. Because in Bangkok, Muay Thai was not entertainment. It was proof. A national argument settled with elbows. And tonight, that argument had a champion. Her name was Siriporn, but nobody used her name. Names were too human. They called her the Scorpion. She stood near her corner, quiet, while her trainer wrapped the munkle around her head. Not for luck, for lineage, for the invisible chain that linked her to every camp, every teacher, every child who learned pain before language. She had 47 professional fights, 47 wins, no draws, no mercy. She was 24, compact and balanced, the way a blade is balanced. She didn't bounce or posture. She waited, and waiting was part of her dominance. It told you she had time. It told you she had never needed to hurry. Earlier that night, men had stepped into this ring like volunteers at an execution. A young fighter from Thonburi, brave enough to smile, lasted a minute before his ribs folded to a knee. A soldier with a shaved head tried to clinch her and found his forehead opened by an elbow he never saw. A visiting karate man bowed, stiff as a statue, and left the ring stiff in a different way. The crowd's laughter kept changing shape. At first it was cruel, then it was hungry, then it became the sound a crowd makes when it starts to believe in something beyond fairness. Her promoter, Somchai, liked that sound. He fed it. He lifted a microphone like a priest lifting a relic. 10,000 baht, he announced. Not to defeat her, not even to drop her, just to survive 3 rounds. 9 minutes. Stand up. Keep breathing. It was a challenge designed for one thing. To confirm what everyone already knew. That Muay Thai was the ceiling. And every other art was a story told by men who never had to prove it. Somchai asked the question again when the last volunteer was carried away. His rings flashed under the lights. He looked over the crowd as if he owned the night. Is there anyone left? Any foreigner? Any Chinese boxer? Any Japanese stylist? Anyone who thinks his tradition can survive ours? People laughed because laughter is safer than silence. Silence would mean the question had weight. Then, from high in the cheap seats, a young voice answered. Not loud, not desperate, just steady. I will. The crowd turned, annoyed at first, like an animal disturbed while feeding. A boy stood on a concrete step. 17. Skinny. No corner team. No wraps. No oil on his shoulders. He looked like he belonged to the city's daylight. A student. A dancer. A troublemaker. Not a ring. His name was Bruce Lee, but even he did not speak it like a name. He spoke it like a fact. Somchai squinted. How old? 17. The laughter returned, quick and easy. A child. A foreign child. What do you practice? Somchai asked, smiling as if he were doing the boy a kindness. Wing Chun. The Thai translator hesitated on the syllables. The crowd heard only the shape of foreignness. Something soft. Something cinematic. And how many fights? Bruce's eyes didn't move away. Street fights. Not in a ring. Somchai pressed. Not in a ring. Now the laughter turned into pity. Pity is what people use when they don't want to admit fear. Bruce walked down through the crowd. People made space without realizing they were making space. He climbed through the ropes. Under the lights, his body looked even smaller, but his stillness looked bigger. Suda watched him approach. Her face held no emotion. Not contempt. Not curiosity. Just the calm of someone who has never had to imagine losing. She spoke to him in Thai. A short sentence. The translator leaned in. She says you should go home. Bruce nodded, as if the words were weather. He didn't come to Bangkok for a trophy. He came for measurement. 6 days earlier, he had arrived by ship from Hong Kong, restless and unsatisfied. Hong Kong rooftops had taught him one kind of violence. Wing Chun had taught him another kind. But knowledge that isn't tested becomes decoration. And Bruce hated decoration. He had spent his days in Bangkok doing what he always did. Watching. He sat in the back of gyms and studied how Thai fighters shifted their weight before a kick. He listened to the sound of shins against bags, a dull thud that sounded like wood splitting. He noticed the way the best fighters didn't look angry. They looked present. And he noticed something deeper. Muay Thai wasn't just technique. It was an identity. The fighters here didn't train to express themselves. They trained to become a tradition. They inherited form. They defended form. They died inside form. Bruce was the opposite. He didn't want to inherit anything. He wanted to understand what made a thing true, then discard the rest. That difference was the real fight tonight. Not boy versus champion. Form versus freedom. The referee called them together. His ears were thick with old damage. He explained the rules in Thai. Elbows, knees, clinching, no gentle boundaries. Bruce listened, nodded, agreed. Before the bell, there was a moment that felt longer than it was. Bruce noticed how the ropes vibrated when someone leaned on them, how the canvas held old stains like history it refused to wash out. He thought of Hong Kong, where boys fought for face and stopped when pride was satisfied. Here, fighters fought for rice, for debt, for camps that raised children into tools. Suda was not cruel by nature. She was shaped. A life of certainty hammered into her bones until certainty felt like safety. Samkai's money was not a reward. It was a trap set for anyone who needed to be right. Bruce felt it closing. If he chased victory, he would become a prisoner of applause. If he chased survival, he would accept their terms. So he chose clarity. To touch the truth without worshiping it. He wasn't asking for protection. That alone unsettled the ring. The bell rang. Suda advanced like she always did. Measured. Patient. Muay Thai is built on the idea that pain is negotiable. Distance is not. She tested him with a teep, a push kick aimed at his chest. It wasn't meant to finish. It was meant to place him. Bruce stepped off the line. Not back. Not around. Off. The kick missed air. A small murmur rolled through the crowd. Not because a kick missed. Kicks miss. Because it missed in a way that suggested the boy had already been there in his mind. Suda tried again. A second teep. Harder. More annoyance in it. Bruce shifted again. His feet didn't scramble. They slid. Suda's expression tightened. The boredom cracked. She closed distance. Now she wanted the clinch. The place where her art became inevitable. Her hands reached behind his head. Fingers locking. Bruce's forearms met her wrists. Not with force. With contact. A soft redirect. The clinch didn't land. It dissolved. Suda tried to reattach it like a predator trying to bite smoke. Bruce's hands were already answering. Not blocking. Guiding. Removing angles before they could become certainty. In Wing Chun, touch is a language. Pressure is a sentence. Intention is punctuation. Suda had lived her whole career speaking only in impact. Now she was being spoken to in a quieter dialect. She stepped back. Just one step. But it was the first step back she had taken all night. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't know what they saw. They only felt the disturbance. Suda snapped a right round kick toward his ribs. This was not a test. This was tradition asserting itself. Bruce raised his arm. Not as a wall. As a slope. The shin met bone. A sharp sound. Bruce's forearm lit with pain. He accepted it. He let the force slide. And as the kick returned, he stepped in. Close. His right fist traveled straight down the center. It stopped a breath from her collarbone. Not a miss. A decision. One clean line. The shortest distance. The arena went quiet in the way a room goes quiet when someone tells the truth. Suda's eyes flicked to the fist, then to his face. She understood the message. Not in words. In the body. He could have hit. He chose not to. That choice was more insulting than pain. She attacked again. A jab. A cross. A knee rising. A familiar chain. Bruce moved in centimeters. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just enough. The jab found nothing. The cross passed his cheek. The knee met his hip and lost leverage. Bruce's palm touched her shoulder. A short strike. Not to damage. To turn. Her balance shifted. Her stance opened. For an instant, her body was not a fortress. It was a door. The bell ended the round. Bruce walked to his corner. There was no stool. No water. No hands to touch his face and tell him he was doing well. He stood, breathing even. Blood had not yet appeared, but his arm was already swelling from that kick. Across the ring, Suda sat as her trainer spoke fast. He didn't yell. A great trainer doesn't waste volume. Break his rhythm. The translator near Somchai caught the words. Single strikes. No patterns. Make him guess. Suda stared at Bruce. Something in her had shifted. Not fear. A colder emotion. Recognition. She had built her life on a belief that the world respects what survives pain. And she was looking at a boy who seemed to treat pain like information. The bell rang again. Suda stepped out differently. Less ritual. More chaos. An elbow came without setup. It cut across the space where his eyebrow would be. Bruce leaned. Too late by a fraction. The elbow grazed. A thin line opened. Blood warmed his skin. The crowd roared. They needed blood to translate what was happening. Suda followed with a knee. Fast. Hard. It landed on his thigh. A dense shock. His leg buckled half an inch. That was her language. She was saying, now you are here. Now you are mortal. Bruce blinked once. Not from pain. From focus. He did not rush. He did not retreat. He adjusted. His stance narrowed. His hands came closer to his center. Suda threw another elbow. Bruce's forearm met it. At the same time, his other hand flashed toward her eyes. A finger jab that stopped short. Again, a decision. Suda felt the threat and hated the restraint. Restraint meant he was still choosing. She tried to clinch again, furious now. If she could lock the neck, the fight would become simple. Her hands reached. Bruce's arms met them. He didn't struggle. He attached. For a second, their forearms pressed. Two systems speaking through skin. Suda pulled. Bruce turned with her pull. Not resisting. Stealing the angle. His palm struck her chest. Short. Heavy. It wasn't a shove. It was a placement. Suda took 2 steps back before she could stop herself. That, more than any punch, exposed the crack in her certainty. Because she had always believed dominance was about force. And here was a boy showing her it could be about timing. Suda's trainer shouted something now. She ignored him. She threw her right elbow. The famous one. The one that split foreheads. Bruce didn't flee. He met it. He caught the arm at the hinge. Redirected the blade. His other hand rose to her throat. Not with drama. With clean geometry. It stopped close enough that she could feel the air move. If he pressed forward, her breath would become a question she couldn't answer. The referee saw it. He stepped closer, ready to intervene. Bruce withdrew his hand. Suda stayed still. A second too long. In that second, the entire stadium understood something it didn't have vocabulary for. The boy was not asking to win. He was showing that he could. Somkai's smile vanished. Because the challenge was no longer safe. Suda looked at Bruce with a new expression. Not anger. Not admiration. A hard respect. The kind that costs a person something. She nodded once. A small nod. Almost invisible. Bruce nodded back. The bell rang, but the fight had already changed. Suda came forward, but her strikes were no longer a performance for the crowd. They were questions. Can you handle this? Can you handle this? Bruce answered in movement. Yes. And also, you can learn this. Another exchange happened. Brief. Tight. No flourish. A kick. A deflection. A step. A palm. A sweep. Suda went down to one knee. Not crushed. Just placed. The crowd gasped as if someone had dropped a sacred object. The referee stepped between them. Hands out. Eyes wide. Suda rose immediately. She didn't protest. She didn't demand continuation. Her pride was not the kind that begs. Somchai shouted. The crowd shouted. But the two fighters were no longer listening to the crowd. They stood facing each other. Close. Under the lights. Sweat and blood and breath. Suda lifted her gloves slightly. Not as a guard. As acknowledgement. Bruce bowed his head. Not theatrical. Just precise. The referee called it. Not a knockout. Not a victory that could be written neatly on paper. A stoppage. A recognition. The crowd hated that at first. Because crowds come for endings. But a strange quiet began to spread. A quiet that had nothing to do with politeness. It was the quiet that comes when a belief has been challenged. Later, long after the lights cooled and the gamblers walked away with pockets heavy or empty, a door opened on a small side street behind a Muay Thai gym. Inside, the air smelled of old leather and liniment. A single fan turned lazily. A heavy bag hung like a priest's bell. Suda's trainer watched Bruce with suspicion. But Suda watched him with the hunger of a serious person. Not the hunger to win, the hunger to understand. They did not speak much. They did not need to. Suda showed him the mechanics of the Thai kick. How the hip turns over. How the shin becomes the striking surface. How the body follows like a whip. Bruce tried it. His shin was not conditioned. Pain flashed. He didn't complain. He nodded, stored the lesson. He asked about the clinch. Not as a weapon, as a system. Suda demonstrated. Hands locking behind the head. Pulling. Knee rising. Bruce watched the physics. Two bodies moving toward each other. Acceleration meeting acceleration. Then Bruce took her arms and placed his forearms on hers. He closed his eyes. He taught her to feel. A light pressure. A change. A redirect. She moved wrong at first. Too hard. Too committed. He adjusted her by a few degrees. A small turn of the wrist. A softer elbow. And suddenly she felt it. The moment where force becomes unnecessary. The moment where the opponent's intention carries him into emptiness. Suda opened her eyes. She looked at him as if she had discovered a new sense. This was not betrayal of her tradition. It was expansion. She had spent her life becoming a perfect form. Bruce was showing her something that lived underneath form. Principle, not a technique. A way of seeing. The older fighters in Bangkok would later argue about what happened. They would turn it into their own stories. Some would insist the boy got lucky. Some would swear the scorpion could have finished him if she wanted. But Suda never argued. She did not need to protect her legend, because the legend was never the point. The point was what she felt in that ring when her certainty broke. A person can survive pain and still remain trapped. A person can remain undefeated and still be confined by the shape of his own belief. And a person can arrive unknown, young, far from home, and still carry a freedom that forces everyone else to reconsider their walls. Bruce left Bangkok 3 days later. A ship ticket back north. A small bag. A forearm still tender. A thigh bruised deep. But he carried something heavier than bruises. He carried proof that styles are only boats. And the water does not care what boat you built. Years later, the world would see Bruce Lee as a finished myth. A poster. A silhouette. A face that became a brand. But the myth began in quieter places. In rooms that smelled of sweat. In rings where no one clapped for philosophy. It began the night a scorpion discovered she could change. And a boy discovered that the most dangerous opponent is not another fighter. It is the part of you that refuses to move.